Okay, it works. Does the chat work though? Let me hear you say yes. Okay. Can you hear the audio? Please let me know. Okay, Thomas, thank God. It's working. Brilliant. Welcome. Thank you, Thomas, for letting me know straight away. I was just about to tune my guitar, but it kind of sounds close enough. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, so let's get straight into it. This time, we are here today to learn about how to stop playing over the pentatonic. Well, not playing over the pentatonic scale, how to stop playing the pentatonic over everything. And I was saying just briefly that I think it's a massive problem. It was a massive problem for me when I was learning, and it took longer for me to get out of that than I would care to admit. Many of the students who come to me, they don't come to me to learn guitar. They already know how to play guitar. They come to me, probably 90% of them come to me with this exact problem. I can't stop playing pentatonics. I don't know what else to do. I just seem to play the same old stuff all the time. Does that sound like you? I don't know. I really appreciate the interaction in this live stream. So let me know what you're struggling with regard to pentatonics. Is it something that you are still struggling in learning the shapes? Is it still struggling because you're sounding scalar? Thomas, you're curious. Okay, cool. Wait till some other peeps get here too. Okay, but you're in the right place if you don't seem to be able to take your lead playing to the level beyond pentatonics. All your solos kind of sound the same. And you've got the same licks, but you're just playing them in different keys, okay? And you can't break out of those pentatonic box shapes and actually play melodically. Because that's the thing, right? That's what we don't want to kind of sound like we just play the pentatonics, because every one of your level sounds like that. So we want to learn to bring some sophistication into our playing. So let's start by acknowledging the problem. It is a major sticking point for many guitarists, and I think it's to do with the way we learn guitar. So today I'm going to share some of the most successful strategies reported to me by my students that help them move forward. And full disclosure, I am considering putting what I'm about to share with you today, plus all the other stuff I'm not going to have a chance to include today, into a course called Scales to Phrases. Thomas says, I'm adding the two most of the time. Adding the two what? Adding two, you mean like the major and minor pentatonic? Let me know, dude. Anyway, so at the moment, like I said, I'm thinking about putting this into a course because it's worked really well for the students. So I'm thinking I could help a lot more people because a lot of people seem to have this problem. So also drop a comment if that would be something you'd be interested in. Beta testing or just getting your opinion, whatever. Because I need to know whether I should invest the time into filming like a whole course and doing loads of stuff. It's kind of, at the moment, it's stuff I do when I teach one-to-one, but it's not organized it's not obviously video teaching or anything. Okay, so you're adding the intervals, Thomas. Okay, cool. All right, so let me grab this. Let me describe a scenario to you. I get a new student who wants help with this problem, and here's what I do. I sit down with them and we put on a backing track, and I say to them, to get an idea where you're at right now, just play for me, okay? Don't try to be impressive. Don't feel under any pressure, but just play. And play with intent. Play slowly and with intent, okay? So whatever you're doing, do it on purpose. Don't find yourself doing it. and we kick off the backing track and they start to play. And here's what happens 100% of the time. Number one, they start playing too fast, too many notes, no spaces. Number two, within 8 bars, they stuff up, okay? And because they stuff up, they get embarrassed. And because they get embarrassed, I mean, it's just me and them, right? We're not in front of anybody on stage or anything that's a big deal. It's just me and them. Because they get embarrassed, they revert to what they know works. And what they know works is those safe, comfortable pentatonics that they always play. So by the end of that 1 minute of listening to them play, they're doing exactly the same as what they've always been doing. So that is one of the problems, is the fear of embarrassment, the fear of playing wrong notes, the fear of stuffing up because they don't know what they're doing or they don't know where to find themselves. So I think you need to acknowledge that. The reason you are having trouble moving away from playing pentatonics is either you don't know where else to go, or two, you don't know where else to go well enough and you're scared that you'll stuff it up. Okay. But here's the thing. You have to take some risks. You have to put yourself out there. And if you don't do that in the context of your own private rehearsal, then it's never going to work anywhere else, right? Come on, welcome. Got some more people in. Nice to see you guys. Thank you. Please drop a comment in the chat. We're here talking about moving beyond the pentatonic scales. Let me know where you're from and what you're struggling with right now, or even if you're not struggling with anything and you're totally okay with playing melodically and you've got some tips for the rest of the people here. Jump in. We've got Thomas here. Thomas, where are you from? And what time is it where you're at? Because it's Sunday morning here at 9:29 a.m. Most people are... You're from Germany. Okay, so it's pretty late in Germany. We have Vapo who normally comes in. Vapo did tell me which part of Germany he's from, but I forget. But he normally comes in about this time after he's been out drinking and partying with his friends. Elf Herney, you've been in before. I find my best musical ideas come from humming or singing them and then finding them on guitar. And then I find many of those notes aren't part of the pentatonic scale. Elf Herney, I'm so glad you're doing that, because that is exactly what you should be doing. Have I seen you before, Elf Herney? Have you been into these live streams before? Or have I seen you on my friend Mark Zabel's channel live streams? Like, your avatar name looks familiar. Okay, yes. Yeah. Okay, so Thomas, it's 11:30. All right, I better hurry up and get into it. Yeah, humming is one of the keys to it. And I always say to people when they start playing on a backing track, I say, what did you do there? And they said, oh, I was doing this and I ended up... I was like, no, but what did you not do? And they are stumped. I said, well, you didn't start at the start. And they always look very quizzical and confused. And they said, well, I started at the beginning of the bar. And I say, no, I don't mean that. I mean, you didn't start at the start of the process. Music doesn't come from here. Music comes from here, comes from here, and it comes from here. Okay, so you have to create something first and then bring it to here. Okay. If you start with nothing here or here, it's not going to come out of thin air, or at least what you play is going to be dictated by your comfortable finger pentatonic patterns. Walter, welcome. Good to see you again. Yes, Elf Herney, yeah. You on Mark Zabel's live streams on many Sundays. Yeah. Me and Mark, we've done a few things together. We've got some plans to do things in the future. We're still kind of chatting about what that's going to be, but I think he's a great teacher, and I was really pleased to connect with him a couple months ago. Both of us been quite busy, but hopefully watch this space. We will be able to deliver something cool together. Walter says, try to play a show tune or any melody that you don't normally play. This teaches us to reach for notes outside the typical fingerings of the scale. It's musical journey, not a sporting event. So true. Walter, you're a very wise man. Max Sundance, hey man, how you doing? You feel great? Good. How's Virginia Beach today? Tonight, this afternoon, this morning? I have no idea. Oh, it must be yesterday in America. So it must be like 5 p.m., something like that. So kind of dinner time. Yeah, Mark is so cool. You know, for years, I used to send my students to some of his lessons on his channels because they were so good, as to augment stuff I had taught, particularly Mark's stuff about, I think I sent them to his solos on Watchtower, Jimi Hendrix's Watchtower. I used to teach him, and I used to, you know, it's not like I just went, if you want to learn how to play along the Watchtower, go and see Mark Zabel's channel. I actually did teach him stuff, but I was saying, and here's some other resources if you would like to kind of go into detail and stuff. Hey, Dumb Skull, how you doing? Where you from? Come in, man. Let's get into this. Okay, so I've described a scenario where I get a new student. They have problems. They have problems with not playing the pentatonic. Stop playing the pentatonic, moving something else. Dumb Skull's in Florida. Okay, so it must be pretty warm down there at the moment. I don't know. So the student, I've got them to play. They've played some stuff. They got a bit scared. They've made a mistake. It's just me and them. They've made a mistake. And so they've reverted to that pentatonic playing. Right. Walter has a great idea about starting with a musical idea, starting with something you can hum, which is an absolute important thing. You know, listening to the music, let the backing track go round a few times and just absorb it, right? Just because you can't immediately create something without having a good listen first. So that's definitely a great tip. And I got into that a couple of live streams ago, but today I want to just get into some practical things. Max Sundance, you will be ahead of the game here because it's something that we covered in a little bit in your lesson, but I've got some other extra stuff that we can do today to build on that. All right, so what I want to say is, number one, music comes first. Even if you never learned any scale, you could still create something by using the tip Walter said, which is you would hum something, okay? And then you could find those notes on your guitar. You wouldn't need to know any scale shapes at all. You could just find the notes. You would be trying to find them blindly. Michael, great to see you, man. Have you jumped on this live stream before? I don't think, or maybe one of the early ones, but hola. Yeah, it's great to see all you guys popping out of the woodwork. It must be a good time, or a good time of the month. All in the box. That's right. All in a box. Okay, so here's the thing. Unless you just started playing guitar, which I don't think there's anybody here that's what you could call a beginner, like if you know your open chords and a couple of bar chord shapes, maybe let's just say just one bar chord shape, you can totally do this today with the knowledge you have. All right, so if you've got your guitar with you, grab it. Let's get started, okay? Because I'm going to show you some stuff. I should talk less and do more, but a couple of extra things before we jump in. Number one, this is a really important one. Scales are the short list of suggested notes that you might play, okay? They are not the full list of notes you have to play. Okay, so if you've got a scale and it's 5 notes, you don't have to play all 5 of those all the time. In fact, you can play notes outside the scale too. You've got 12 notes to choose from at any one time. Some of them sound tense, some of them sound awful, some of them sound comfortable. But I just want to make sure you know that the scale is not the prescription. You must play this note, this note, this note. It's just like, here's a bunch of notes you could play. Pick a few of them. And that's what I think people miss. Pick a few of them. Okay, an over practicing of scales tends to lead to this I can't get out of the box thing. Let me ask you a question. When you wake up in the morning, before you talk to anyone, you practice your alphabet? Of course you don't, right? Because you learned that when you were 3. You learned your ABCs, okay? Now you understand that you use your alphabet to make words, and the words we speak in a sentence to communicate, all right? So I'm kind of the opinion that if you go from 0 knowledge, you should learn the scales so you know where they are and you know what your choices are. But beyond that, I think there should be less emphasis on practicing those scales, because I've got students who've been playing 10 years and they come to me and I say, so what's your typical practice routine? And they say, oh, I spend 10 minutes warming up with practicing my scales all over the neck. And I'm like, well, that's cool, but how long have you been playing? 10 years. Okay, how long have you been playing scales? Oh, no, probably 8 years. So you've been playing scales for 8 years. Yep. So don't you think you know them by now? I mean, how much longer you got to practice them? You know them, dude. So let's stop practicing them and let's start applying them in a musical situation. So, like I said, if you know your open chords and 1 bar chord shape, we can do this today. All right, so we're going to take this chord progression. Max, you'll be familiar with. I'm going to take an open E, B minor, A, back to E. All right, so we've got an open E, and that guitar does sound like it needs tuning. And we've got a B minor bar chord, okay, with its root on the 6th string, and we've got an A major bar chord also with its root on the 6th string. Those are the chords we're going to be working with, chaps and chapesses. Michael says, I like to develop solos around chord transition versus scale boxes. Seems to flow well. Yes, Michael, that's totally what we're going to be talking about today. Chords are everything. I'm going to say that again. Chords are everything. You don't need to know scales. Like I said earlier, knowing scales helps, but really, if you know a bar chord shape, if you know open chord shapes, you can do this. So let's jump in. Here's what we do. We play our E chord. And there's a couple of things we need to know, all right? And I'm going to run through these quickly, but I'm assuming you know the major scale, okay? All right. If you don't know, that's the shape, okay? At the 12th fret, it'll be 12th fret, 14th fret, 11th fret, 12th fret, 14th fret. Then on D string, 11th fret, 13th fret, and 14th fret. Right. So what we now need to do is go 2 pieces of information. Number 1, we need to know the distances between the notes in the major scale. The distances between the notes in the major scale for all of the notes in the major scale, apart from 2 places, the distance is 2 frets. So wherever you start your major scale, the distance is 2 frets, except in 2 places, okay? And those places are between the 3 and the 4 and the 7 and the 8. So dumb skull, the subject you're still trying to wrap your head around. Well, I'm really hoping this is going to help. Please stop me if I go too fast and I don't make sense, because I'm running a bit late. I have a tendency to talk fast anyway. Okay, but let's just recap. So the major scale, okay, we're just assigning a number to each note in the scale. It's called scale degrees. So this is the first note in the scale, we call the 1, or the root. The second note in the scale, we call the 2. The third note in the scale, we call the 3, and so on and so forth. All right. So if we took a G major scale, let me just do this on 1 string so you can see. Keeping in mind it's 2 frets between all the notes apart from between the 3rd and the 4th and the 7th and the 8th, where the distance is 1 fret. So here is the 1. How many frets do I need to go to between the 1 and the 2? I just said all of them are 2 frets apart from in 2 places. So between the 1 and the 2, 2 frets. Between the 2 and the 3, 2 frets. Between the 3 and the 4, that's one of the exceptions, just 1 fret. Between the 4 and the 5, 2 frets. Between the 5 and the 6, 2 frets. Between the 6 and the 7, 2 frets. Between the 7 and the 8, well, the repeat of the 1, the 8 is the 1 also, 1 fret. So we've got this. That's on 1 string, so you can see it. So just remember, it's 2 frets across the board, apart from between the 3 and the 4 and the 7 and the 8. Right. Now, that's the first piece of information you need to know. The second piece of information you need to know is the interval order, the scale degree order of what the scale degree order that's contained in your bar chord shape or your open chord shape. So let me clear that up. All right, so we've got this open E bar chord. Okay, so the interval order, the scale degree order, when you just play the chord, you've got this, which is an open E. That's the 1. This note here, this is the 5. If you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, octave down. Okay, so that's the 5. You've got the 1, the 5, then you've got a repeat of the 1, then you've got the 3, then you've got the 5, and then you've got the 1 again. So if I was to describe a chord, an open E chord, just in the intervals, it would be 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1. This is important information. You'll see why in a second. Now, the good news is that with the open E, the order of those intervals is the same as when we do a bar chord. An E-shaped bar chord, if you are familiar with the cage system, I just call them a root 6 bar chords because they've got their root on the 6th string. So as you can see, here's our E shape from down here. We slide it up to where we need it and we bar it. Okay. But the good news is that because it's based on the E shape, the open E, that means that the interval order for this shape is exactly the same. 1, 5, 1, 3, 1, sorry, 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, and 1. So, now, here's the next step. You play open E. You look at your fingers and you pick one of the fretted notes. Okay, I'm going to pick my 2nd finger here on the 2nd fret of the A string. Now, do you remember what interval I said it was? The 2nd note in your chord. The 2nd note here is a 5. That's important. It's important because if you know where your 5 is, you also know where your 6 is, because everything in the major scale is 2 frets apart, except between the 3 and the 4 and the 7 and the 8. So we look at our 2nd finger and we go, this is a 5, so here is a 6, and here is a 7. No, there's a 7, that's the 8. Okay, so with that one note, then you play a short melody using the nearest neighbours to the note in the chord. This is the 5, so we play a chord and then go. Nothing complicated about that, right? Everybody with me so far? Now, because this is the 5, and we know that higher up the neck as we ascend, the 6 is 2 frets away, the 7 is 2 frets away, and the 8 is 1 fret away. That's in the ascending direction. Let's think about the nearest neighbour below the 5. So how many frets difference between the 5 and the 4? The answer is 2 frets. Okay, so if you take this plays chord, we look at our second finger on the 2nd fret of the A string. We know that 2 frets down from that is the 4, because this is the 5, so that's the 4. The open A is the 4. So we've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the first thing to do is just play the chord and have a little bit of a play and a little bit of a familiarize yourself with the nearest neighbours of that interval on that one note in that chord. So okay, you guys get the idea, gents and gentesses? The next thing to do will be to do that on some of the other strings. Okay, so let's do it on the next fretted note in my E, which is at the 2nd fret of the D string. So same deal. This is the 1, okay, because our interval order in our chord goes 1, 5, 1. So if we know that this note is a 1, then we know where the 2 is. The 2 is 2 frets up. We know where the 3 is, because the 3 is 2 frets up from the 2. And going in the opposite direction, if this is the 1, then the 7 is 1 fret down, because remember the difference between the 7 and the 8 is 1 fret difference, and the 8 equals the 1. So we also went the opposite direction. We go right. So then the next step would be for you to familiarize yourself with some melody notes from the scale, starting from that 2nd note in the chord, or sorry, 2nd fretted note in the chord. It's actually the 3rd note in the chord. So again, okay, so remember it's 1, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we'd have a play with that. Whoops, not that one, because sorry, that was a flat 7. Should have been a 7. So you've always got to, in your mind or out loud, take it slowly and say to yourself what interval number you're at right now, right? So I'm on the 1, so I'm going to go 2, then I'm going to go back to the 1, then I'm going to go to the 7, which is 1 fret down. 1, 2, I'm going to jump to 4, and that's up here. And then I'm going to go 3, which is 1 fret down. Okay. I think that's a good kind of 2 or 3 days, maybe 1 week's worth of work. Just getting familiar with each of those notes. And then you can work on the open strings, you know. Do 1 string at a time and get generally familiar with all of that. Then, stage 2 is to work on familiarizing yourself with the notes in string pairs. So 2 strings next to each other. That's the sound you hear in the great classics. Yeah, it's those open strings, Elferny. Yes. Okay, so let's do it on a pair of strings. Let's do this one, the 5th string, and this one, the 4th string. And then let's join up the melodies that we put on each of those individual strings and work them into a kind of melody notes on both strings in that particular string pair of string 5 and string 4 together. So we go. So you cross a string at some point. Okay, so that's the next stage. Work on the string pairs. 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 6, 7, 8, 7, 5. No, dude, this is the one. Sorry. Stuff that out. We'll start on this second note. Let's start on the 5th string. 5, 6, 7, 5, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 2, 1. Cross the string. When you're drunk and on stage and your pentatonics are your friend. Yes, Angel Raven 444. They are your friend when you're drunk on stage. I personally am not drunk on stage because I like to know I did a good job rather than think I did a good job, especially as I play in a Hendrix tribute show, and that's not something you can really busk, if you know what I mean. I have to be really on my game. So that's for the after party. Okay, but that's the next stage, right? Pairs of strings. Okay, and if you want to go further, 3 strings at a time. All right, so we've done that. We've explored the whole, where are our nearest neighbours related to the notes I'm playing in my chord. And that's for the E chord. All right, now you know what's coming. We're going to do the whole thing again. But we're going to do it with our B minor chord. Whew. So the interval order of a B minor chord is pretty much the same, because all we've done from between a major chord and a minor chord, we've just lifted this second finger. Okay? By lifting the second finger, what we've done is move this note here, which is the 3, to the flat 3. 1 fret down. Okay, so what we need to do here is exactly the same thing as we did with the E chord. But because it's a minor chord, we need to be aware of the minor scale this time, because it's a minor chord. When we're playing a major chord, we have awareness of the distances between the intervals in our major scale. Michael, I would like to plug in the Hendrix Stat, but it's tuned to E flat. So if you've got your guitar with you and people are playing along, that's going to stuff them up big time. Okay. So interval order in a minor bar chord shape. We've got 1, 5, 1, flat 3, 5, and 1. So it's exactly the same as the major chord, apart from that 3, which moves to a flat 3. That's the only difference in that particular bar chord shape. Next, you need to have an awareness of your minor scale distances. So with the minor scale, natural minor scale, it's the same as the major scale in terms of everything, every note in that scale is separated by a distance of 2 frets, except in 2 places. But in the minor case, the places that they are 1 fret are different, obviously, to the major scale. In the minor scale, we've got a difference. We've got between the 1 and the 2 is 2 frets. Between the 2 and the 3 is 1 fret. So remember that. The 2 and the 3 for minor is 1 fret distance. 3 and the 4, 2 frets. 4 and the 5, 2 frets. 5 and the 6, which also you should know is a flat 6 because it's a minor scale. 1 fret difference there between the 5 and the flat 6. And also there between the 2 and the 3, that 3 is a flat 3. Okay, so 2 frets between the 1 and the 2. 1 fret between the 2 and the flat 3. 2 frets between the flat 3 and the 4. 2 frets between the 4 and the 5. 1 fret between the 5 and the flat 6. 2 frets between the flat 6 and the 7. And 2 frets between the flat 7 and the 8. So I've got a worksheet you guys can have with this stuff on. So you can do this at home, all right? So what it shows is the interval order that we talked about in terms of what the interval order is in the chord. And it also shows you the nearest neighbours. And it also shows you the minor scale formula that we just discussed and the major scale formula that we had before. So go ahead and grab this from Dropbox. And you guys can get on with using that to help you, okay? So we explored the E, and we are just about to explore the B minor. I won't spend too much time on it because I think you understand the process, right? We pick a note that we're fretting. Let's pick the 5 again. And we go, if I'm on the 5 and I'm playing a minor chord, how many frets between the 5 and the next note, which is the flat 6? Answer, 1 fret. So, and if I'm on the 5, then I move to the flat 6. How many frets between the flat 6 and the 7? Actually, this is the flat 7, right? So the answer is 2 frets. And you ask yourself, okay, if I'm here and this note in my chord is the 5, how many frets is it in the opposite direction? How many frets distance is it to the 4? It's 2 frets. So then we start with one of the fretted notes in our chord. Pick one, okay, consciously and with intent. Pick one to work on. Let's do the 5. We play our chord and then play a short melody using some of the nearest neighbours and the note that we picked. So that's what you would do, and then you would carry that idea through to all of the other fretted notes in your chord. So if you're going to do the top string, the top string is your root. Is there a do, re, mi song to drill the minor scale sound into your head? Really good question. There are bits. There's not one particular melody, I think, that literally walks up the minor scale. But I think Crazy Train, I think, uses all the notes from the minor scale. Helps if I can fret the notes, dude. Yeah, do it slowly. Crazy Train, Alpherne by Ozzy Osbourne, is a song that the opening riff contains all the notes in the minor scale. So that would be one. But, you know, if you want the minor scale, just getting the minor triad in there. I mean, who knows what song that is? Okay, that I think goes without saying. That song will also help you. Exactly, it's Stairway to Heaven. If you get the minor triad, that gets you in the mood. I mean, that's not the whole scale, but that helps you go, okay, we're in that minor kind of thing. Let's have a think. Yeah, the only other one I can think of isn't exactly the minor scale, and it's a bit obscure. I know it because I was taught it at music at school, but it's called Hall of the Mountain King by Edvard Grieg. It's a classical piece. You might know it. I think it goes. Okay, most of that's minor. All right. Yeah. Okay. So you know it. It's not containing all the notes in the minor scale, but it's got the root, the major second, the minor third, the fourth, and the fifth. It just hasn't got this one. I include that. I've got a short course called Musical Finger Exercises that includes that. I've got a real beef with people doing finger exercises like this. And kind of, you know, I know it's good for finger dexterity and stretch and independence and all that, but the people who have to listen to you practice that stuff want to throw themselves off a building because it's not at all musical. Okay, it's completely chromatic and atonal. And when you have to listen to somebody in the next room or above you in the apartment above play that stuff, you probably need to hide all the sharp objects in the house, right? Because you're like, please, if I have to listen to you practice, God's sake, play something musical. So yeah, I created a musical finger exercises course, and that Hall of the Mountain King thing is one of the exercises in there, because even the way it's played with an orchestra, it starts off really. And then gets faster. You know, and so you can use that as a finger exercise and get faster naturally. It's kind of what's the word? It just naturally gets faster. Yeah, that chromatic scale practice is a good way to get lingering guests to leave the house. Dude, that is actually a great idea. I've never thought of using it as a Jedi mind trick to get rid of people that you know, maybe your wife's friends or something. I don't know. You're like, okay, they need to go now. They've drunk all our wine. That's a great idea. Man, I love this stuff. You're a genius. All right, let's move on, because I've just got only a short time left, because I started really late because of the tech. 11 people. So we had explored the B minor, right? Hadn't done it like that because that's a scale. We're not playing scales. We are looking at the intervals, and we're playing short melodies of 2 or 3 notes from each of the notes that we fret in our chord. Okay, this is why I said before, if you know open chords and you know one bar chord shape, you can totally do this. You can totally solo melodically without needing the safe, secure comfort blanket of your pentatonic scales. Okay. We're starting from the 1 on the top string. If that's the 1, then this is a 2. If this is a 2, then this is the flat 3. If this is the flat 3, this is the 4. Then this needs to be the flat 7. So we play around with that. And then we do it on the pair of strings. So let's do the second string and the first string. The reason we're doing nearest neighbours is because you don't have a lot of notes to choose from. And that is one of the biggest things I think that prevents people from playing with intent and consideration of the notes they play. Because when they know a scale shape, they're just like autopilot, you know, they're not thinking about what the interval is and what, more importantly, what interval is going to sound good against that chord. But because we're only focusing on intervals in the chord that's being played in the backing, those intervals are already contained in the chord. So we're matching what we play as notes and the chord. So it's always going to sound good. Okay. Now this is just step 1, where obviously we can include other notes. We can include outside notes, and I don't have time to get into all of that. But like I said, I am planning to build this course, scales to phrases. This stuff that I'm running through with you now, plus a bunch of other stuff that I don't have time to run through, has been a great success with students who've come to me to say, I can't get out of these pentatonic boxes. I just play them automatically. My licks sound the same. Help. So I decided to put it into a course. Okay. Now, if you're interested in me doing that, I mean, I still don't know whether people give a shit about that kind of stuff. Would you find it helpful, or are you like, dude, I'm totally okay, I'm beyond that? I don't know. So before I go and film like loads of video lessons and stuff and put it together, if you're interested, if you think it's worthwhile for you or other guitarists you know, then if you follow this link, I'd appreciate if you just, you know, let me know. Yep, I'm interested. Put my hand up and say, yeah, Phil, I think that would be quite decent. And then I can contact you about beta testing or give you a few heads up, or even ask your opinion about, you know, do you think this works? Does this work? I think it does. I've had success, but does it work for you? And then I can also see if you know, like 2 people are interested, right? Then I'm probably not going to spend the next 2 months filming the course. I've got all the worksheets and everything because it's the same training I do in person, but you know, it's a lot of hours filming and editing, and if 2 people are interested, in, I'm not going to bother. But if, like, I don't know, 20 people are interested, then I'm going to knuckle down and say, okay, well, these dudes think this is worth it, Phil, so better get started, right? Band Shadow, play smooth Santana, also good for minor training. I wonder if that's harmonic minor slightly as well, but the only difference is 1 note. But Band Shadow, you're probably right. Okay, so back to what we're doing then. Okay, so we've done the E, we've done the B minor. Now we're going to do the A, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing again, but you understand. Look at the interval notes, look at nearest neighbours, start to build short melodies of 2 or 3 notes on single strings, start to build connected intervals and melodies across 2 strings. Okay, then, all right. This is why it works, is because you have to think about major scales and minor scales and the interval that you're on right now when you're playing it. You can't think about pentatonics. You've not got enough brain power to just slip into that old pentatonic habit that you do, because you have to concentrate on creating on the fly. You can't revert to your old habits. And this is why it kind of smashes through that stuff, because you're not on autopilot. Okay, so next level up, once you've done all that, is to start to join your phrases to some of the arpeggios. Okay, now this might take a little bit of extra knowledge. For example, Max Stundance, I don't know if you know all the caged chords, but this is one of them. So if we did an E here, there's an E here. That's a root 4 shape. Another version of that is this one here. And there's another one here. Okay, well, let's take this one, for example. It's basically like an open D. Top 3 notes. But if that was D, that's D sharp. This is E. Okay? What we would do when we're playing around the E, and then try and add the arpeggio in there. So whichever note we end up on our single string kind of stuff, we end there, and then we need to join it to our arpeggio. Same with the other notes on the other strings. Okay. So just think about those top 3 notes to begin with, and then later on, once you can join those with your melody notes, then work on the full arpeggio shape. Okay, arpeggio is just the notes of the chord played one at a time rather than all together, and they tend to be in order, like 1, 3, 5, in numeric order. Okay, so once you've joined up the arpeggios, I'm just going to touch upon the other stuff, because I don't have time now to go into all the other stages as deeply as I did the first 3 or 4, right? Sorry, guys, but it's Sunday and I've got a bunch of stuff to do. You know what it's like. Your wife's got a list of to-dos, and they're all your to-dos, right? They're not her to-dos. So I've got to jump off fairly soon. But let's just talk about the arpeggios. All right, so you've learned the arpeggios and you've joined them up. Okay, and when you're in the arpeggios, you can also then take note of the notes and the interval order in the arpeggio, and then go from there. So you can do a single note line, and then do the arpeggio, and you know that this is a 5, this is a 1, this is a 3. So if you've ended on the 3, how many frets to the 4? 1 fret. How many frets from the 4 to the 5? So and that's what we do next. Then the level up from that is to jazz up the arpeggios, because when you start playing arpeggios, it kind of sounds cool, but only up to a point, and it kind of sounds a little bit lame, because, you know, doesn't really, it's kind of a bit vanilla. So what you need to do is then jazz them up by phrasing them a little bit differently, by not playing them in the order that they appear, not playing them like 1, 3, 5, or if you do something else with them. And here's a couple of quick ideas before I go. You can use approach notes. Approach notes is a thing in jazz and in other places. Okay, it just means a note above or below the actual note you are intending to play. Okay, so if we've got this arpeggio, which is an E arpeggio, I'm starting on the D string. I'm 14D, 13G, 12B. Hey Cara, nice to see you, Cara 89. Okay, so approach notes. Let's approach that arpeggio from a note below. So instead of going, let's now go start 1 fret below. Let's add some more jazz. Let's, at the top of that arpeggio, maybe do an approach note there too. So you go. I didn't approach it. I started at the note and then went down to an approach note and then back up. I don't know if it counts as being an approach note there. Or you could do it. No. Just have a bit of a play around, okay? Don't worry about the scale. Don't worry about anything else. Just think about nearest neighbours. And think about, well, I know that's not really a very nice note against an E. That's the major 7, okay? But when it moves up 1 fret to the 1, then it makes sense, okay? One fret above, 1 fret below. Use your own musical creativity and feel to jazz up the arpeggios, right? Because these are the notes that some are in the scale, some might be outside the scale, but all 12 are available to you at any time you play. They might not all sound like most people would accept that is harmonious, but they are all available to you. And if you use them, if you use the ones that are a bit tense and a bit weird sounding, a bit uncomfortable to listen to, but you use them in the right place, you can extend your vocabulary of these single notes and these arpeggios. So it doesn't kind of matter what you do in between, as long as you hit like a right note, a beginning and end, maybe in the middle, but you know. Not sure how many. That definitely made you go, oh, what's he doing? For a second, right? So this is all stuff for you to be playing around with, okay? You can spend a few hours just being a little bit creative and with your phrasing and with the choice of notes, okay? So keep in mind that these arpeggios are starting points. You can play the pure arpeggio. Pure arpeggios sound great, you know? Another great trick is to go up the arpeggio and down the full scale. But I didn't really want to get into that because we're trying to not do scales today. We're trying to just focus on music, melody, and intervals. The big question, if you want to try this method, is what note am I playing right now? Not the name of the note, but the interval. What's the scale degree I'm playing right now? If I'm on a 3, I've got 1 fret to go to the 4. If I'm on a 3 and I want to descend, there's 2 frets to get to the 2. Elfherny says the E, the A, and the D chord shapes share the same intervals, right? 1 5 1 3 5 1, and the C and G shapes have the same intervals 1 3 5 1 3 5. So that can help narrow things down. That's absolutely right, Elf Ernie. That is completely right. Well done you for spotting that. I didn't want to get into the other two shapes, the C and the G, just to keep it short. I say short. It's been like an hour and 10 minutes, but kind of short, kind of sweet, and kind of concise. Okay, so I think I dropped. Did I drop the worksheet? Yeah, okay. So I dropped the worksheet link. It's a Dropbox link. If you want a summary of what I've covered today, if you came in late or just arrived, like Cara 89, I think you came in maybe halfway through, 3/4 of the way through. This will be up as a replay in a few minutes after I finish. And the worksheet is there to download in the chat box. And there's also a link to kind of register your interest if you'd like me to make this or complete this into a full course, because this is really one module of about 6 that I go through when helping the students. And when I mean students, I don't mean like little kids who just started playing guitar. I mean like 40, 50-year-old guys. That's my main market. Guys who've been playing a while, but they just can't get out of the pentatonic box. They haven't been able to join the dots with certain musical concepts. And I see my role less as a teacher and more of a kind of facilitator of helping join those things, because they usually have 3 or 4 pockets of knowledge, but I just go, okay, well, this belongs with this, belongs with this, belongs with this. And then I kind of help them draw a line through the whole thing. And then they have the light bulb moment. Okay. Sometimes I'm just kind of a guide, really, rather than a teacher. Obviously I teach, but sometimes people have loads of knowledge because it's all out there, but they just don't know how to string it together. And also I want to make a distinction. There's a lot of information out there, but the difference between information and knowledge is you need to understand how to use that information, when to apply that information, when it's appropriate to use it, when it's not appropriate to use it, for it to become knowledge, right? It's a never-ending journey for me too, dude. And I think this is why I love guitar and music, is because you never stop learning. Wherever you are on your journey, whether you started yesterday or you've been playing 35 years like me, okay, there's always somebody who knows more than you who can teach you. There's always somebody around the same level as you, and there's always somebody not as good as you. And that, I think, goes for every stage of any kind of learning. Even if you are John Mayer or Jimi Hendrix or whoever you pick your hero, if you go and ask them, or had asked them, you are the best in your class, they would tell you, well, that's kind of you to say, but I don't think I'm there yet. I mean, Dick Cavett said that about Jimi Hendrix. He was like, you're the best guitar player in the world or whatever. And Jimmy's like, no, maybe I'm the best guitar player sitting in this seat right now, okay? Because it's a lifelong journey. Car 89, I think we should learn all the triads and inversions. Am I right? Yes, you should. I'm not going to discourage you. You should definitely learn them, but there's quite a few things to learn. What I try to do is get people to learn like 1 or 2 things and then get them to apply those things in a musical context first. And then after they're using it and they're comfortable using it and they know when to use it and how to use it, then I start expanding sideways. Because otherwise there's a lot of time spent learning lots of stuff and trying to remember lots of stuff. And then when it comes to applying it, you're like, I'm lost. I don't remember all these things. I don't know which one to use. I've got too many choices. So I'm going like here, narrow and deep. Let's learn 1 thing, 2 things, and then let's apply them musically. Once you're happy, then let's take maybe an inversion or a new one of the cage shapes and mix that in with what you're already doing. But the idea is to get the ball rolling and to keep it rolling, and add a little bit of information in each time. So the tiny snowball at the top of the hill. It keeps rolling, but as more information gets added on, it gets bigger and it gets faster. That's how I like to teach, because it's got the best results for me. You can't just give people a ton of knowledge and then expect them to assimilate all that. It's too much. So Car 89, learn all the triads. Yeah, start with the triads and then apply those. Okay, once you're happy with the triads and you can do those anywhere, anytime, any place, in your sleep, then I would say learn the inversions. Don't do all the triads and all the inversions, because that's just, well, for me, that would be a mindfuck. I'd be lost and I'd be confused and I'd be anxious. So go narrow and deep, start small. Oh, okay, so for all of you, thank you for joining me today. I hope that has given you some directions, some strategies, some methods for leaving the tyranny of those pentatonic boxes behind and the automatic playing. I do appreciate you stopping by. Thank you for coming in. It's been really good to see all of you. Ben, Dumbskull, Walter, thanks for all the tips. Elf Herney, great to see you. Thanks for coming on. Say hi to Mark for me, because of the time zone difference, I don't really get to hang out on his live streams. Cara, Angel Raven, Max Sundance, good to see you again. I hope you're getting on well with what I gave you to work on, Max Sundance. If you need any extra resources, let me know. Michael, cool. All right, I'm going to jump off the call. If you have any other questions or anything else, I'll stay in the chat for another 1 or 2 minutes. And if you have any topics that you'd like me to cover on future live streams, also please leave those in the chat. Cool. Thanks. Gosh, I should really have some water with me because I talk an awful lot. All right, guys. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Cara. Thank you, all those people I've mentioned. Miguel, never seen you before, but this was helpful. Great. That's what I'm here to do, is just to help. I don't know it all, but if I know a little bit more and can point you in the right direction, then I feel happy that I've helped another player go forward. Because there's so many people I know who pick up a guitar, don't go forward, get frustrated, put it down. And my master plan is a guitarist invasion. We should grab guitars. We should arm ourselves with music and take over the world, because everybody knows at a jam, there's just not enough guitarists. We need more guitarists, because, you know, when you go to a jam, there's maybe one dude, right? There's like 20 drummers, 15 bass players, and there's like 100 singers, but there's never a guitar player. So we need to mobilize, team. All right. We need to pick up the guitar, and everybody picks up the guitar needs to keep playing it, not put it down because they're frustrated, not put it down because they are confused. All right. I'm just talking shit now. All right. So let me say goodbye and go. Thank you all. Have a great day, afternoon, morning, wherever you are. I will see you again, same time, probably same place, this time next week, or it may be Saturday in here in New Zealand next time. Thanks, guys. Bye for now.